I know some of us are still getting coffee. I am thrilled. Well, I should introduce myself. My name is Krista Hopeful, and I'm the Artistic Director and Senior Curator here at the South Bend Museum of Art. Welcome. Don't clap for me. I haven't done anything. Yet. Okay. It is my pleasure. I am so excited that today that I get to introduce my friend Lauren Steinhofer for today's Lunchtime Talk. Yes, we're so excited and happy you're here this afternoon. So Lauren Steinhofer is a South Bend-based painter, poet, installation artist. And I'm going to start with, there's a lot of slashes in this. Festival coordinator, director, project manager, and curator. You did all of that. Lauren attended IUSB, and she received a BFA in graphic design with a minor in painting, which is pretty mind-blowing. I would add that she is really a driving force in our artistic community in South Bend, and I'm saying that not just as a curator or someone who attends a lot of cultural events here, but as an artist. She's innovated, inspired, and imagined some truly spectacular events and programs for our community, mostly on a shoestring budget, probably on zero budget. She is an effective, fiercely effective community organizer, and I want to say force to be reckoned with, but I don't like that sort of aggro kind of way of putting it. So I'll say she is a brightest light, and she's a creative hurricane. And I mean that in the best sense. Who leaves magic really behind in her wake. The artwork that Lauren creates encapsulates the persistence of being. She dissects our emotional inner landscape that's really a part of the human experience. Whether it's the turmoil of a broken heart, the disassociative state resulting from past traumas, notes of hope in situations of growth, or bringing forth imagery that engages with collective social justice issues. Lauren's work foregrounds that we are feeling beings first and foremost. I'm going to talk a little bit about this t-shirt. So Lauren is the founder and visionary of the Yart Music and Arts Festival. This was this year's tee, where a collective of artists comes together to completely redesign a different outdoor space, usually in a residential area each year. She gives upwards of 30 visual artists a space to show their art, their craft, as well as around 12 musical acts, the time to perform. It's truly a monumental undertaking. She's clearing dense landscapes in the woods, building elaborate stages. She's arranging for food and beverage vendors. She's getting permits and porta potties. It's a glamorous endeavor. This year's Yart featured a healing area, and she worked with Conscious Michiana, so every year it just expands and gets bigger. Just to give you an idea, if you haven't been to Yart, so load-ins for musicians are happening like in the middle of the woods, you know? So like large PAs and gear is being trucked through. Finding and coordinating parking is always a thing. But despite these very real obstacles that would make anyone else just give up and buckle, and I believe there was a year I told Lauren, like, just quit. Why are you doing this to yourself? Thankfully, she did not listen to me. Lauren pushes through these obstacles. So many people in our community trust and believe in Lauren's creative vision, and a lot of what Lauren makes happen collaboratively is a direct result of her, right? Her being, her generosity to others in the community, her compassion, and just her utter radical acceptance of everyone around her. And I'll just finish. Am I making you cry? When I wrote this last night, I was getting verklempt, but she has really cool cats, and the last thing I'll say about her is her houseplants thrive under her care, so that should tell you a lot about this beautiful human being I want to introduce. So welcome, Lauren Steinhofer.
That was so sweet. Love you too. I don't even know how to talk now. Oh man. Okay. Yeah. So I like fabric, and a lot of my okay. So when we had the innovation conversation for this piece, someone, I can't specifically remember who said it, verbatim used the phrase "bringing light to dark," and instantly I just saw hands tearing apart the darkness and bringing something out. And to me, I think that's like the emotional level of innovation, is like being stuck in this place where you feel like everything is dark and there is no hope, but then the collective comes together and begins picking away at whatever it is that's hiding once underneath. So that's kind of what I try to portray in this piece. Hands are like my thing for some reason. Someone told me before that that's like the hardest thing that you could possibly draw or paint, so then I spent like a year and a half just painting and drawing hands, and I think it paid off. I mean, I didn't draw these from scratch. I definitely projected just to speed up the process a little bit, but I think you still have to know the form and whatnot to actually get it to look somewhat substantial. But I knew going into this that I wanted it to be some kind of install. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. And originally I pitched wallpaper just to have like the floral underneath. And yeah, taking off wallpaper is it is not fun. So instead I put like 4,000 staples in the wall and stretched the fabric around what I had already painted, which is normally how I do like my smaller work. So I build the frames and then I find sheets from like Goodwill, or like, I'm a big fan of like people cleaning out their grandparents' house, because a lot of the times they're like, hey, we have this, do you want this? And I'm like, yeah, I'll find a purpose for it. Big fan of repurposing. But yeah, so that's kind of how I came about doing that. And then I wanted to close off the space and make it feel separate from the rest of the world in here. So then I decided to do the drapes like you would have in like your grandma's house. So that's kind of about that piece, I guess. I don't know, I'm stumbling, but yeah, it was very challenging, I'm not gonna lie, just because I have never really been on scaffolding too much, and this is the biggest piece I think I've ever done in my life. So it was very fun to have that opportunity, and I'm pretty excited about how it came out, not gonna lie. In the midst of all the chaos of everything else that I was trying to do while I was working on this mural, it almost felt refreshing to just like focus on actually just painting instead of like curating or like communicating with like so many people in a day, you know? It was a break, and it felt really nice. And I hope that it does feel. Someone came in here while I was working on it and said that it reminded them of pulling on their grandma's apron while she was working in the kitchen. And I really like that interpretation, because my work does, like, I want it to anyways, have like more of an emotive aspect to it, to where it does feel. But yeah. I mean, if anyone, how long did I just talk? Was that only like 5 minutes? I don't know. What was that? That's the hour. I mean, I do have cool cats. I could talk about them for a minute. And I only water my plants with filtered water, so I feel like that's why they're thriving. What?
Do you talk to your plants though?
I do.
You like,
I'm like, yeah, man, you're doing great. You're doing great. All my plants, the reason that they're thriving is because all of them have been gifted to me, and I feel like I would be doing an injustice to the person who gave it to me if I let it die, you know? But, yeah.
So you got your undergrad in graphic design.
Yeah.
Did you have an intent to work as a graphic designer, or did you always want to do painting? Because oftentimes, you know, we'll appease parental figures by doing design as a major, and then do like kind of what we really love as the minor or as the secondary thing. So I'm just curious. I don't know if that was the case.
No, that is literally what happened.
Okay.
Yeah. I picked up random acrylic paint and started doing ridiculous like spheres and aliens with different quotes. So it was kind of like a comic, and they only had like one word slogans, and I was like, yeah, now I'm gonna make this my living. And my mom was like, no, you're not gonna be able to make money doing that. So then I was like, okay, and I started looking into, at first I was gonna go to the Cleveland Institute of Art and Design, and I went and did the school visit, was like prepping everything to move, and then she passed away, and then I felt like I had to listen to what she told me by like going the graphic design route. I remember when I had my upper divisional at IUSB, everyone was like, all of your work is drawings and paintings and you're getting a graphic degree, like what are you doing? And I was like, well, I have a semester left, so I'm not switching my major right now. Like this is the route that I'm taking. I don't even own a computer now. Well, I have a Chromebook that Krista Hoffel gifted me. Thank you very much. But yeah, it was definitely like, I thought that was a route that I would be able to make money. But now I even realize that you can do it without having money, which I think is a blessing in itself. Because I think that a lot of creativity comes from the lack of, which ties into the innovation, you know?
So with the graphic design, as you went through all those courses, did any of it inform a little how you do your work, or did...
I think it helped me become a full-time artist. I think like understanding how different platforms worked, and like, I mean, even organizing events, you know, like flyers, typefaces, you know, things like that, that definitely made it easier as far as like promoting, which I think is what a lot of the graphic world is. So in a way, I'm kind of grateful that I have the knowledge of like the Adobe suite, so that does come in handy pretty often. But it's just not something, I'm so tactile, like I need like something physical, so it's just hard for me to sit at a computer and do that form of art, which I have an extreme appreciation for, because you can literally shift realms. But
could you talk about the use of the sheets and the floral panel, floral pattern representing light?
To me, I feel as if it's like giving someone their flowers, you know, that phrase where it's like acknowledging or recognizing the work that someone put in while they're alive. Like it's like a common phrase, I guess. So like to me, I think that acknowledgement and that recognition is a form of light, and that's kind of like how I choose to represent it. Start to finish, I think like 2 weeks, but I think I did like 4 hours each day. I broke it up into hands, so I'd be like, today I'm getting 2 hands done, the next day I'm getting 2 hands done, and then that's how it went. The same time that I was working on this, I was organizing the fundraising event for YART at the Potawatomi Conservatory, so I was kind of split. But I did have people like coming here and like bringing their donations and things like that, like while I was for the silent auction. So, but yeah, I think about 2 weeks. Using that like manual staple gun, I think my hand was stuck like this for like for like 4 days afterwards.
Katie, you talked about the hands. I think you did a fantastic job. I love the different, every hand's in a different position. But does 8 mean, is that a symbol for you? Or would you talk about how you decided on the hands right up?
Honestly, I didn't even count them. But it felt almost like doing it piece by piece and filling the space as far as like completing the composition. I think that this is what felt the most comfortable as I started piecing it together. I don't like the sketch that I originally made for this, which I'm not a sketcher. I'm like one and done. Like I see it and then I do it and then that's like it. And that can be for the good or for the bad, but like that's how life is. But I originally thought that there would be like even ropes tied to it, like pulling it from the side with hands coming from the ceiling. But I don't know, this felt more intimate. This felt more of like the collective, as in like working towards one specific thing all in like immediate space, I guess. I don't know, now looking at it, I kind of wonder what it would look like if but yeah, no specific symbolism with the 8. Why, did you think the 8 meant something?
I was wondering, because as I watched you progress through the whole thing, you're very detailed on it, and I love the way each hand was different, the way it was holding it. I thought that maybe there was something symbolic that you had. Because each grasp is different, too. That the one at the top is not really holding it, one on the right side, just touching it, but there's others that are pulling it, and maybe I was overlooking that.
No, I love that. I love that observation, that interpretation. I feel like I always say everyone has different hands, as a form of like, no one will make the same thing look the same, even if you're painting the same thing, So that's a beautiful sentiment. I do think that hands in general tell the story without having to know who it belongs to. So the fact that they are each in a different position kind of amplifies that notion. Yeah, I love that. I love that you just said that. Thank you. Yes.
When I saw this go up, I noticed when you were doing the fabric, when I was looking at it, I noticed the curtain rods, and I can't help but not get like a domestic feel from like an inside the home, or, and you mentioned somebody talked about an apron, like, so it's very, it has a very domestic feel to it, but then it seems like when you talk about the different hands and everything, it calls to mind for me, like, everyone has their own stories and like their own homes or like their own experiences with home or not, or like what does that look like? So, but like where people come together is like, where the innovation happens, like how you're talking about that unity. So the inside of the more domestic space reminds me of like that sense of home and what does that look like? And that could even look like, to me, like home must have been as a home. Things like that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an interior space, but it calls to that in some way. And that's just something, I don't know if you're thinking about that or had that idea in your head when you were looking at the curtains or thinking about the curtains.
I really didn't. Sometimes I feel like anything you create is just like alive and it grows into numerous facets of its meaning. And I really appreciate that you just said that, because that just amplified it in my eyes, I feel like.
I have another question about the sheet.
Yeah.
As it represents light in the darkness, usually light in art is kind of like divine or radiant, but this is kind of a messy hanging sheet. And what does that say about your vision of the collective and your life outlook, that light can look so messy?
I think the answer's in the question. Yeah, life is messy. I don't think innovation is pretty normally. I think it is rough around the edges, and when there is new ideas, some of them aren't even taken seriously until it's like a matter of life or death, you know? So the idea of it being luminous is I do think that really could be very beautiful and
It's almost
probably
expressed in the
amplify
hands,
it.
how they just kind of disappear, fade from the center out.
Thank you.
So, because you like old sheets, vintage sheets, and there is kind of like a nana quality about the pattern, and there is this kind of relating it to Freddie's mural. There's an intergenerational thing happening with like the handprints. There are kids-sized hands and then adult-sized hands. I guess talk about, can you talk about like why vintage, why like an old sheet as opposed to say one that a pattern that you make, and that could just be like you like it, but what is that like conjure for you?
I think when I really started using fabric just in general, in the house that I grew up in, we had couches that matched the wallpaper, like unintentionally. Like we had moved from the west side to like Nymphs Parkway, and when we put the couches in, I literally was just standing in the living room like, is this the same, And then I remember telling people about that, and they're like, "Oh yeah, my aunt has that couch. Oh, my grandma had those curtains, So I feel like there's almost like this connection between certain fabrics that people have nostalgic feelings towards just by them being exposed to them throughout their life.
Would you say that then helps to evoke the emotion? Because you were talking earlier about you want your pieces to evoke emotion from the viewer. So that's a piece of a tool that you're using for that?
I definitely think so. A lot of the first round of fabric I ever started stretching came from my bonus mom. She's my stepmom, but I call her my bonus mom because stepmom has a weird connotation behind it. But she's a hoarder, and she kept all of her sheets from when she was a kid, pretty much. And so early 80s, all of the sheets that anyone who was in the early 80s had, I was using to make art. So then it had that appeal, and it's oh wow, I had those sheets, which then everyone associates that memory to it, and then that memory is affiliated with an emotion. So I feel like it definitely amplifies it in a really subtle way, I think.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
I think it's really interesting to have these two murals next to one another, because Alex's is all about innovation is going to space.
Right,
it's
yeah.
about the singular man who goes to space, and then yours it's very much outward, and yours is a collective memory as part of the innovation process.
too.
That are happening.
Really do. That's like the youth, and then what is it? The boomers, I guess. In a way, it's like there's a contrast. No offense to the boomers, if there's any boomers in here. Love you guys.
Well, I have another question. So, music is really important and dance for you.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, what were you listening to when you were you listening to music when you were painting this? And if so, what were you listening to?
I was indeed. I always put like one song on replay, if I'm doing like a 4-hour session, because then it helps me lose track of time. And I think for the majority of this, I was listening to Lions by Tune Yards. And there was one other. I think I was getting in Yart mode too, so probably Phenomenon by Odie.
Yep.
Now that it's like my Yart anthem, I feel like. Oh, and then Black Dog. I can't remember who that was by, but yeah. Yeah. It feels like a long time ago. But yet, nah, I don't know. I guess that's art. Timeless. What's that? Yes.
I love how each of the hands is coming out of the darkness. So thinking about, you don't know where they're coming from, but they all have that need to hold on to the shared forever. So I just like to think of what's behind the darkness, and that hand is the whole individual in a way, but it's like each hand has its own emotion. So hold on and then just share. Just love the black and coming out of there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Was it a pain in the ass to spread the sheets?
Oh yeah, I had numerous tries, to be honest.
Just thinking about the logistics of that feels insane.
It's I was like, I stretched it and then like kept lifting it to see where the painting was underneath it, and then just trimmed it after it was kind of in place.
Were these hanging parts always part of the plan, or did they kind of come out of the cutting process?
They came out of the cutting process, for sure. Happy accidents.
So now that this is up and Yart's over, what's next? What's in the works?
I'm trying to turn Yart into a nonprofit, and then let that grow in the direction that I think it already has been. And then I might learn. I'm definitely gonna start taking welding lessons on Sunday, and then I also might apprentice with Zach from Z Stone. He owns a granite company that's downtown. There's these commissions of these like 8-foot angels that have been on the back burner there, and I have no idea how to carve stone, but he said that he would teach me, and I really want to learn how to do that. So that might be, it's a switch up for sure, but like it would be really cool. Painting doesn't feel like tactile enough even. Like I was okay with the graphic design on the computer for a while, and then painting has been like, that's my staple, always will be my staple, but I feel like I am needing something way more physical and more like more dimensions as far as like my own personal artistic growth. So I think that's what I'm going to venture into.
Have you dealt a lot with temporary pieces? I mean, this
Oh,
artwork
yeah.
itself, okay. And how do artists see that? I mean, it's gonna live on in this video somewhat, it'll live on.
Oh, I didn't
through pictures that have been taken of it, but the artifact itself is gone, and how do you feel about art that comes to be and then the artifact itself is gone? And even how that plays into innovation.
Oh, I think everything is temporary. I think that right.
Yep.
So I mean, even painting, even stretching sheets and painting on them directly with just like a single primer of house paint, even if that, like, I don't think any of my pieces are gonna last. And I think there's something very beautiful in that, because I know I'm not gonna last. And like, I think memories are more valuable than the actual tactile or the actual physical thing, you know? So, but as far as innovation, I think that when that could tie in a way of once something has happened, it becomes so normalized that you don't even think of it as once being innovation. So like, in a way, it just surpasses its own existence.
You know, we've had kids that have come through after this was done, and I don't know if, and I watched you do this, but I don't think you've ever experienced when the child was here. But I would hope that you get to see it sometime still, because it was so fascinating to see when all of a sudden a kid went up and then they started touching it, and they saw that it was fabric and it was different, and the expression. I guess, did you feel that when you were making it to create that, or is that just something that came out of it and it would have been great to see a kid do it?
I mean, honestly, after I finished stretching this, I was like hugging the wall because it felt nice, you know. I mean, I think that there's something because it is temporary, you know. I feel like I wish people would advance to like actually touch it, you know. I mean, but in this kind of setting, it doesn't feel like that's appropriate. So like, I love that the wonderment of being a child. They're just like, I don't know those rules. Yeah. I love that.
So you never saw a child touch it when you were.
I didn't. No.
It was pretty incredible. I mean, I didn't say don't touch it. I just watched the expression. It was like, wow, you know, it just.
That's cool. Aw. That fills
So
my
you
heart.
created something, I want you to know, that really was inspirational, and I think some child took something really away from it.
Thank you. I think that's the ultimate goal, is to just inspire.
Any more questions? No. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.